Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm Nora. Joining me in studio today is Michael Sladnick, a pro-democracy activist working on Myanmar issues since 2021. Thank you for being here. Could you share a bit about your journey from being a student in the US to working on Myanmar issues along Thailand's border?
Thanks. It's such an honor to be here talking with DVB. You know, it's a long journey, but to make the story a little bit short, I was a student activist in the U.S., and that was around the time that movements like Occupy Wall Street were happening. But more than that, there was a resurgence of global struggles for democracy with the Arab Spring and different, protest movements in Greece. So it felt like a really exciting time, around 2011. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so I was active in trying to support those movements like Egypt, Syria. And as a activist in the Western tradition, my way of supporting it was more about writing articles and arguing, trying to spread awareness to other activists. And that felt like it was not enough when some of those revolutions and struggles for democracy ran into difficulties and setbacks, with the defeat of democracy in Egypt and everything that happened in Syria in the past years. So that was depressing for myself and for a lot of people. But I still had hope when new movements were breaking out, Sudan, Algeria and stuff, and then Myanmar. So when the struggle against the coup broke out in Myanmar, I was paying attention to that. And I was just watching it online, watching developments unfold. And when the crackdown happened in March 2021, and it looked like the movement was going to be defeated, I was really upset. I wanted these people to succeed. But then seeing that the revolution kept going, it gave me hope. And I started to meet Myanmar people, and they, the rest just went from there. As soon as I started to meet Myanmar people, I came into a whole new form of activism where instead of just talking about what was happening, I was making real contacts and trying to build real support, fundraising. So everything up to now is led from that.
Okay. What made you focus on Myanmar's issue?
I, thought it was important to support revolutions for democracy around the world. And I had no contact with Myanmar people before. I'd never been to Myanmar before the coup. I didn't have any Myanmar friends. But, it really started right here with DVB and other, pages online, other websites like that, looking for news. And on the comments section, starting to meet Myanmar people. And from the images and videos you guys were posting and from the people I was meeting, I just could feel, even all the way from America, their spirit and their determination. And I felt like I could use my past experience as an activist, the past setbacks, to try to do better this time, to try to do more, and that this was a struggle that would not give up, and so that I could put my all into it and, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, help way more than I did in the past.
What was your first reaction when you learned about the coup?
When I learned about the coup, I did not think that there would be a successful resistance, to be honest, because I just knew, Myanmar had a brief stint of constitutional democracy, and it was a very weak democracy with a lot of problems, like the Rohingya issue and crackdown on student protests. So I did not know much about Myanmar history or Myanmar people. So to be honest, at first, I did not expect the mass resistance uprising that there was. So when that happened, especially after February 22nd, that really caught my attention.
Since then, how have you gotten involved in assisting Myanmar communities along the border?
Well, I've been living near Mae Sot around the border since July 2023. So, when I was working online, I didn't have any plan of what I would do. I was just meeting people online and taking it day by day and working together with them. So I had the same approach when I got here. My Burmese language skills were pretty good by then, and I just thought by meeting people together, working directly with comrades in the border area and people on the ground, trying to do better. So it's still been, I still have a long way to go doing some volunteer teaching and helping to fundraise with different groups that are active in supporting PDF and refugees around the border areas. At the same time, I still have had to spend a lot of time studying to perfect my Burmese, started studying Karen and Thai, so there's still a lot more that needs to be done.
What challenges have you faced in helping these communities, and how did you handle them?
The biggest challenge was and up until now has been the difficulty in building foreign support. Most foreigners, most Americans, Europeans are not really aware of what's happening in Myanmar, and that's difficult to overcome. And then for me, I was excited in 2021 when I started to make direct contacts with people who were really involved in the revolution, started making contacts online. And I wanted to fundraise for them. I knew they needed support. So the hardest part for me was realizing that a lot of other Westerners don't want to donate to movements like that, okay? Like I said, when I was an activist before, we didn't have a tradition of really giving material support and money to support those causes. So Myanmar people, the diaspora, recognize that's necessary, and it's just difficult to convince Westerners that that they should be involved in that too.
Recently, you've done several interviews, including a DVB Youth Voice feature story in Burmese. When did you learn to speak the language?
I started studying Burmese in May of 2021. And I took a few online lessons. I got whatever books I could, but mostly I just learned it by talking to people on Facebook every day. In 2021, everyone was so active on Facebook, so I started making these friends from all over Myanmar. And especially, I was interested in the protests, the ones that continued in especially areas like Yima Bin Salinji. And a lot of people in those areas where the protests were continuing, most of them don't speak English very well. So in order to build a relationship with them, to build support for them, to fundraise for them, I needed to try to communicate in Burmese. So at the start, I was just using Google Translate and texting them, and then you translate the same thing a bunch of times, you start to remember it, and it went from there. And then, so by mid-2023, I could read and write Burmese pretty well. That's when I moved here. At that point, I still couldn't speak very well, and I could barely understand anything. So the past year plus of speaking Burmese all the time, that I've improved that somewhat.
Yeah. Can you share a memorable moment when your language skills make a big difference in your work?
It's just, it changed everything about my work. As soon as I started learning even a little bit of Burmese and posting in Burmese, I was meeting so many people, when I saw those videos and pictures you guys were posting, DVB was posting in the protests, those people were like my heroes to me, that they were standing up against the soldiers' guns, continuing to defy them, continuing to stand up for their rights and protest. And by learning Burmese, I actually got to meet those people, The people, ever since the start of the Spring Revolution, they've been pleading for international support. So being one of the relatively few Westerners who is visible online supporting the revolution. And then on top of that, once I could start to speak Burmese and talk with them, I just got to meet so many amazing young people, and that inspired me to do my best and to keep trying my best with Burmese and with fundraising and everything.
Sure. So speaking Burmese helped you with your work inside Myanmar. So can you share a story about how speaking Burmese helped you build trust with the local communities?
To build trust with the local communities, since I've been arrived in the border area, I have done some trips across the border into Myanmar, into the liberated areas and near to the front lines. So a few times I brought journalists across the border and organized trips, and then when we got into Myanmar, I translated for the journalists. So that would not have been possible, that type of work would not have been possible if I didn't speak Burmese. And then in particular, back in March, I brought a journalist from the Netherlands to Karenni, and because of the difficult military situation there, even getting into Karenni was difficult. It took
Sure.
us several days. At first they said there's no way, it's too dangerous for foreigners, so we had to speak to them. Even once we got into Karenni, our plans fell apart. The people who were supposed to meet us were not available. So we got together the local comrades in that area and just talked to them. I explained to them in Burmese who we were, what we wanted to do, how we wanted to get attention to what was happening on the ground there. And by listening to us, by being able to hear why we were there, what we were doing in Burmese, they understood and they decided they wanted to help us. They
Sure.
wanted to help that journalist.
Working in a conflict zone such as Myanmar can be very dangerous. Has your perspective on Myanmar changed since you first arrived in Thailand?
I don't think my perspective has changed that much since I've arrived here. I had an opportunity to meet so many people before I came here. I'd say I've learned a lot more about Burmese culture since I've moved here. Just being able to talk with people outside. I didn't have that many opportunities to speak Burmese, and then Burmese culture, Burmese music, dances, movies, being able to be all part of that's a whole other side of Myanmar that I've really been able to appreciate since I've been here, in addition to continuing and deepening the work for politics.
So, being an American, how have you tried to raise awareness about Myanmar since the 2021 coup in the U.S.?
I had a lot of activist friends. So in 2021, I started a bulletin, a bi-weekly bulletin, to inform people in English about what was happening here. And, with articles about what the PDF was doing, the protests, struggles of CDM, all that, to try to inform people. And that took a lot of effort to produce because I did not speak Burmese at that time. So I had to have a lot of help from the people I was meeting online to translate, to understand articles. And when the second wave of COVID hit in July 2021, those friends were not able to help with that project so much. So that's when I got more serious about learning Burmese. I, decided if I wanted to do my best, I had to, be able to do that work myself. So since then, I haven't done the bulletin, but, I'm always fundraising for different strike committees, different groups. So just informing the activists I do know and the friends and family I know back in America and other countries about the stories, to anything I think is inspiring, just letting people know about that. When they hear that, they're really interested and, hopefully they want to help.
What does work best for you in helping Americans understand Myanmar?
I think it's the amazing images that are coming out of the country. All of the protests and documentary reporting about the resistance and, the channels that didn't exist before where, if you go out and can look for it, it's all online, it's all on Facebook and other websites. And then being able to combine that with real stories about the people I know, when I actually meet those people and I can tell them these are ordinary people, make people understand their lives were totally turned upside down by this coup and they saw their futures being taken away. And being able to tell that story combined with those images, combined with that type of reporting that DVB and others do, that, when people hear that, they understand and they feel a connection to what's happening here.
I've heard about the final step, Karenni to Nepira campaign you're organizing. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, that campaign was not ever fully fleshed out. All right, so we are actually now the people who helped us in Karenni, especially Bola K PDF and others, they are doing their own fundraising campaign now. So we are fundraising alongside them. That campaign is just getting started now. I'm hoping with all the attention to the success of the Syrian revolution that is an opportunity to make more Westerners understand that this type of movement can be successful. And then building, like we met, for example, a Catholic priest there, okay, and he doesn't have internet. He was in Yartet. They're totally cut off from the outside. So his parish, as well as the PDFs, the EAOs on the ground, have responsibility for so many refugees. And so even being able to get the word out for him and for others like him, to Catholic organizations, others like that, raise a lot of money for refugees there who are in dire need of help. So just trying to facilitate those connections with the outside world as much as possible.
Okay. So what do you hope to accomplish next in your life and career?
I just hope each year to do more than I did the last year to help Myanmar people. I see this movement in Myanmar as part of a global movement, that we all have to fight for democracy and human rights and justice and decency for all. And I really believe in Myanmar people. They're really inspiring. So I believe for my own life, that if I do my best for Myanmar people, that, my own future will be okay. That, I believe Myanmar people have a bright future no matter how difficult things are. And if I tie my own destiny to theirs, I'm confident that my future will be okay as well.
Okay. Are there new projects or areas of focus that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I am excited about being able to use my Burmese language skills to do more. So, like I said, when I first moved to the border area in 2023, it was difficult to actually speak Burmese, and now I feel like I can speak it a lot better. So whether it's working with refugees, teaching refugee children, hopefully bringing more journalists in, getting more attention out. Also, been trying my best to learn Sago Karen, so any opportunities to work with those communities too, because they have, been doing this revolution for longer than anyone, the Karen and other ethnic minorities. So just to continue that work and continue to meet amazing people and do my best to work together with them, work together to, build more support for Myanmar people.
Sure. So before we conclude, what message would you like to convey to our audience?
I want to say to Myanmar people, I recognize how difficult the situation is. When you're in the middle of this type of long revolution, from day to day it can feel hopeless, and the number of tragedies, atrocities, horrors can be overwhelming, especially, for the people who it's directly affecting, people who've lost their homes, lost their families, lost their friends, who, are displaced and see their futures taken away. That is extremely difficult. But, this revolution, this movement is inspiring. There's nothing else like it in the world right now. And you can see from the experience of Syria, the Syrian dictatorship started 1 year after Ne Win's coup. The Syrian revolution started in 2011, almost exactly 10 years before the Spring Revolution. Everyone, including myself, thought that revolution was defeated. But the Assad regime was incompetent, just like Min Aung Hlaing, It was rotting from the inside out. And no matter how much international support it got from Russia and Iran and other dictatorships, that rot continued, the resistance didn't give up, and now we've seen it triumph. And I, believe the same for Myanmar people, that however difficult things are, those people who are in a position to continue to resist, by doing so, eventually this revolution will succeed, and that myself and I know others will, continue to do our best and do more than we have before to get the support that Myanmar people need, and that eventually, that support will come, and that bright future will come.
So it's quite unique that you have quickly learned the Burmese language, and you are now dedicating to helping Myanmar return to democracy. So thank you for sharing your journey, and thank you for joining us in our newsroom.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's really, like I said, an honor to be here. My journey started with DVB, so this is great to be here for the first time. Thank you so much.